of Pequannock Township Council. Ms. Marsh?
In accordance with the requirements of New Jersey's Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting was included in the annual meeting notice, which was filed in the office of the Township Clerk, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, published as a legal notice in the Suburban Trends newspaper, and distributed to all persons requesting notice in accordance with Township policy.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a prayer and a moment of thanks for individuals serving our nation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Most gracious Providence, we ask that you bless this governing body with an abundance of wisdom and understanding, so that every deliberation will result in actions which will promote the common good and the general welfare for all the people of Pequannock Township. Amen.
The clerk will please call the roll.
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Here.
Mr. Hurd?
Here.
Mr. Cole?
Here.
Mr. Phelan?
Here.
Mayor Winterfield?
Here.
We have a quorum.
The next item on the agenda is presentations. The first one will be from the Chamber of Commerce. Jim Sardo?
Thank you very much. Can I walk around, or do you want the microphone?
But give your name and address and a little intro of who you are.
There you go. I'm Jim Sardo. The K is silent. I'm from 8 Open Road, Pompton Plains, New Jersey, lifelong resident, and I'm the Chamber of Commerce president. And thank you for having me today.
Great. You got the floor.
Thank you very much.
And the TV.
Listen. I do appreciate, our bylaws do say that we do keep in touch with the, with the council periodically, and, for the businesses and for the community, and we just wanted to have a Reader's Digest version, a brief overview of what we've been doing with them, knowing that the master plan is taking place and we're developing the town. So a shortened version, which some of you have seen, and I appreciate those. I think just about everybody's been to our chamber meetings, and we do have one tomorrow night, by the way. We'll be at the library. They'll be showing us how to do small businesses and using their, their services, county and state and nationwide, to enhance the businesses. We're honoring the police department of Pequannock, and we are doing Quilts for a Cause. And we are catered by the new Pequannock Deli, so come on out. That's our commercial.
What time is that?
It's 5:30 to 7 at the library. Okay, the first thing we did was we did a survey, of the businesses. This was a lot of grip and grin. It was a lot of going individually to the businesses. We've been getting 35-plus members at our meetings, different ones at each time. We've tried having lunchtime, dinner time, trying to get more businesses out to find out exactly what they think. The whole thing is trying to connect the dots and get a little more communication throughout the businesses so that everybody seems to be on the same page. Throughout the town, everything seems to be a common cause. So the first thing we started with briefly is the SWOT analysis, which is what do we have as our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities, and then the threats to the businesses. And we went through that for a month or two, as fine as delineating each section to find out what do the businesses really, what do they see, and then what does the community see. Okay, so we went through this. Having met with many of the local business owners, small groups, and at our monthly meetings, we'd like to offer the following suggestions or recommendations as we move forward with our community. And these are just, again, this is representation in general consensus of the chamber. Some of the stuff, as you see, you would know better what the code is. You would know better where we stand with certain areas of what the council's doing now. But this is just an idea of what the chamber is going through and what the chamber discusses and thinks. Okay, the first thing we discuss is, let's look at our town through a fresh pair of eyes. In other words, everyone here knows how great the town is. Everyone here knows all the great areas of the town. A lot of you have lived here a long time. So when you go through the town, you think of that not through a fresh pair of eyes, through what you remember and what you see. So we tried to say, what do people see when they come into the town from each angle, and how do they perceive the main areas of our town? And these are, again, the Reader's Digest version, so this doesn't turn into an hour presentation. The first, of course, everyone knows is parking and design, the building layout of both the upper and downtown, our cause for limited traffic, and appeal for soliciting the businesses. As you can see through the pictures, we don't have a lot of parking, and the buildings are limited as far as being current. The parking seems to be the main issue with the business owners. The front, as a matter of fact, if the front is filled up, like in front of Carnival Spot or down by Cosmo's Pizza, all that, sometimes it's filled up with the people from upstairs or the business owners who don't work on having, patronage going through. Sometimes they have to go in the back, and the back is crowded. So what people will do is pass by. Okay, if you look in the back, this is what we have, but a lot of times the back of the parking lots are for the owners, it's for the people who live there. If you look here, you know what the strip looks like. It's very difficult to park when you have the different places open, and sometimes people just go by to a different area. This dead area here, that's between the railroad tracks, of course. And if you look at something, and there's codes and what things have to do with banks. God knows you've been dealing with banks for a while now. This is all like the MT Bank. It's a beautiful facility. Most people do banking online now. So when you look in the back, and this is how the businesses see it, you've got over 50 spots, you've got the long drive-throughs that is very rarely used. So they see it as, and we know that there's codes and there's things as far as what the bank should have and what the property entails. But as the businesses see it, that's a lot of property along with the CVS area that isn't really being used as compared to what is. So if you look up on top from an aerial view, which you all know, what they see is the big area here, and back here I know there's a water issue, but this is what they have for the businesses in this side of town. Even where the bagel place is, it gets very close to accidents with people coming in and out of the stores or going through. So the main issue they see with the replanning is the parking issue. The next was curb appeal is outdated and eclectic, leading to depreciation. It includes all entrances of the township as well as the commercial areas. Point being, and again, this is abbreviated, if you are coming up Alexander Ave, and welcome to the town, okay, we have the gas station, and we also have a bunch of trucks without license plates and, that sort of thing. I know there's issues. I know that there's different warrants. There's things. However, I'm giving you the perspective of what the chamber discusses. I'm aware of some of the answers to it. I'm aware of some of the other. I'm just saying.
As long as you're aware of some of the
I am very aware. I'm just presenting it because the chamber they want to be heard, and that's what we promise them. Being part of the chamber is that we will let everybody know what you're thinking so that everybody, and I told them, you know a lot of this stuff. However, we go through that. If we go up through the town with a fresh pair of eyes, it's not quite like entering other towns, depending on the areas, the style buildings, what's where, the wiring. If you're coming in from 23, the sign's crooked, you go through. This is from Wayne going into the town, and this whole area now, if you go through, and I know there's who owns what property in what county, but this is all overgrown with weeds. So this is when you enter and it says, welcome to Pequannock, with a fresh pair of eyes. Now, what we're thinking, we go, oh, but we live in a great area. Our block is nice. This is nice. But when people come through it, and then, of course, there's the issue, as you know, is the whole town is a flood area, which it's not. But that's the perception of it. It's when you come down 23. So this is what they see. When you come down to the Pompton Plains area, there's a sign that most agree that nobody can read what's on it because all are in the back. And, again, the parking issue, the building issue. They have alacrity is needed to keep up with the current and future development of the surrounding towns. We know, you're all aware, Tuaco, Pompton Lakes, Butler, the Quarry, and Riverdale. If we don't move, that's going to be selling, and we are not going to get any businesses coming through, or, if we don't move ahead with the updating. And that with the sores on 23 and trying to get everything moving, it's a concern to the businesses. And quite frankly, there are some businesses still that are pretty much staples here who are considered leaving the town now because of they just can't make it anymore. More flexibility from the business owners, as they put it, to utilize marketing strategies into the basic form of signage, sidewalk accommodations, parking area information. Sometimes it gets difficult when it comes down to the exact code, the exact law, the exact this, when it's like, okay, come on. There has to be some consensus, some neutral ground where we can at least try to sell the business, and that's where they feel a little bit, we really need a little bit more flexibility on that. Now this, further survey input and consensus from town community making use of a larger arena of social media in an effort to hear the voices of the people who aren't speaking. If you compare and contrast the number of residents and businesses in town to the number who attend the meetings, we have a large group of people. As we always say in the chamber, if you go to any house and knock on the door and say, who's the mayor, they probably don't know. Do we have a town council? They may not know. So we know it because we're here and we meet constantly. However, we need to hit the masses a little bit. So the website, and I understand that's a big up and coming, so a new website, a new connection, things of that nature. The current mailing lists, as I saw them, when you do the, as they call snail mail, hard copy lists are no longer, a lot of them aren't in town, and some of them aren't even alive anymore. So we need to update, and we're trying to do that through the chamber. Consider the benefits of a more accurate community email listing, Nixle and other social or online media designed to reach the masses. Again, people aren't really reading the mail. If you look at this, for example, 90% of people get their information from smartphones, which you probably do too. 50% get them from their computers at home. So a lot of people aren't reading newspapers, they're not reading the mail, they're not really reading things that are coming out. What they're doing is they're trying to get everything on the phone. So social media is a way to do it. What I suggest and what the Chamber of Commerce has been discussing, I think I ran it even by Adam a little bit, is we're talking about Bluetooth technology. Okay? How many of you, when you go down the highway and all of a sudden it says Sears has a sale or Best Buy has this or whatever, those are all beacons, and they're not expensive beacons. So if we put a beacon up in here, every time somebody came to the council meeting, it would just pop up the agenda, everything, sign up here, this is what you have, what's your email address, it takes it all. Now on a larger scale, a more commercial scale, which we're suggesting maybe the chamber can help out with, is if you put a beacon on the front sign, then everybody who drives down the turnpike will get notified on their Bluetooth that, welcome to Pequannock Township. Maybe Little Food Cafe has a special tonight. Maybe at Tavern 5, maybe we have something with the initial encounters. Now, if you look at that, that's a little bit bigger. If you look at it as on 23, you can expand it even more so people know what's going on in the town. If you do the beacon right and set it up the right way, you can set it up where when people drive by, you can get their contact information. And that's what everybody's looking for. Because we don't have, I don't think we really have accurate where we can get in touch with everybody. You know, that quick Nixle is one thing. But when you're saying, hey, we would like to take a survey, boom, everybody in town could get it because just about everybody has a smartphone. Everybody has it. So it could be on the signs. It's a work in progress to do. It's not super expensive. And it's something the chamber is willing to work on because it can publicize the town, the website, publicize the businesses and things of that nature. So that's just a suggestion of what we're doing with the Bluetooth technology. The survey from the community. At the 20th annual festival that we hosted, we took a survey. Actually, Charlene, one of the officers of Chamber, we surveyed, I believe, 165 people total. Only people from Pequannock and Pompton Plains while we had the booth. We shook hands. Do you live here? So how many have lived in Pequannock Township? Between 1 and 5 years, we had 31. 6 and 10 years, 8. 10 to 15, 21. 15 to 20 years, 24 people. 20 to 25, 19. And 25 and over, 62 people that we spoke to. It was a very quick survey. It was just, should our uptown or downtown business centers remain the same? 6 said yes, 93 said updated, and 60 said be redesigned and redeveloped. Okay? And again, just the notion of the people were all different age brackets. I would shop uptown or downtown more if select a priority. There were more parking available, 45. There were more variety in available stores, which we know, 108. If there was easier access from store to store, it was only 7. And if the town center included a walking park area, 5. So that's from the community. Now, which 3- or 4-story building would you like to see developed in Pequannock? Because that seems to be an issue. However, again, the masses who aren't speaking as compared to the few people, okay? Not one person out of the 165 said, I don't want 3- or 4-story buildings. They all said, that's, and remember, how many lived here 25 or more years? Now, here were the designs. You can see, we just threw different designs out to see if they wanted to keep the charm of the town or whatever. This seemed to be, I think, Dave, you took this, right? You took this survey? This was in with 113. Now, these were the designs they suggested, and here's what they said.
Those townhouses, right?
Huh?
Townhouses.
They said, with the style of it, they wouldn't mind seeing townhomes, condominiums, or stores on the bottom, and that on top, which of course the business owners like because now there's more revenue coming in if you have a third or fourth level. You know, we discussed things like, well, what would the houses on a block see if they're looking at the back of like where Atlas, I'm dating myself, Marcos, well that is. And it's like, okay, well that's the prolonged version where I took pictures of it where there's cables falling down and dumpsters and but they would like to see anything other than what's there right now as far as the backs. Okay, so no one really, when we talked to them, no one really said there's no way I want to have three. They said, oh, that was the main one. So that's the style, which is the town style. And they don't mind having stores, whether it's on the Turnpike, whether it's on 23, that's what they're looking at. So that's briefly, and then I always leave out if anybody wants to email me or get in touch with me, that's what we have. The end. I do thank you very much for letting me present that.
I believe we're working on putting a committee together for the master.
Yeah.
Well, that's to solicit for the,
We're looking to do something with the master plan, and part of this would be included in it. Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing 3 or 4 story buildings, but you got to remember there's a setback. I'm on the planning board. There's not enough setback over here. Those buildings would be right up against the road practically. So there's some issues with doing it that way. So we're hoping with the master plan, the new master plan, that we can work out something because, yeah, we do need to make the town look a lot nicer.
Absolutely. And I think part of the thing was because sometimes we say a fresh pair of eyes, but we also say don't put a Band-Aid or don't just paint what you have. Think of the spot, don't think outside the box, think like there is no box. And that's what the master plan would do. They would look and say, okay, let's change this. Maybe we can develop, not just here's the road, we'll push the building back or we'll put a new front on it. You have to redesign it for the next 50 to 100 years. I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but these are the discussions that the chamber members, and they seem very interested because they do want to stay in town, but it's becoming very difficult if they're not getting people going through. So these are just some suggestions. I mean, everyone's discussed it. I appreciate it. It's just, this is what they're thinking, and then tomorrow's meeting, we presented it.
well, also we,
Go ahead. Just let me say one more point. You mentioned M&T Bank over there with 50 parking spaces. That the planning board did not tell them they had to have 50 parking spaces. That's all their property, and they decided to put 50 parking spaces.
Exactly.
The code is not to have 50 parking spaces for a bank. That's ridiculous.
See, when they discuss, and again, I don't want to bring, but you know, they're thinking, well, maybe if CVS and all that becomes one big, and MT takes the bank on the bottom, and there's a way of thinking and seeing who's willing to develop what, as the same as by Pompton Pharmacy here, the dead space there, and the PNC Bank, that usually the lower level. So if you look at the aerial views and what you have, and if you've lived here long enough and see that this is all dead spot, you could see where people, no matter how good or bad, I mean, we can't get little novelty shops because you're not going to pay off anything if you do that. So you need a draw, you need an anchor store and things like this. These are all the discussions, which I appreciate when you come to the meetings because we talk about all this. And we encourage a different set of eyes because, you know, everybody can't agree on the same thing. You have to have the back and forth. But this is just in an ideal world, this would be nice as we go forth planning. You know, we don't want to plan it and build it and then say, here's what we want. It's like, this is what we suggest.
Hopefully we get somebody from the chamber on this master planning.
well, right now you're just going towards getting to get someone to do the master plan. Right. And I don't know if you've met or not yet. Have you met?
If I could just jump in, Jim, thank you. I know we spoke, and it's kind of like an appetizer for the master planning process.
Exactly.
The plan proposals for the master plan planner are due on Thursday, so we're going to be opening them, and we're going to be moving forward that process. When you do a master plan, the more input you get from the community, the better. So when you can get stakeholders, whether it's the Chamber of Commerce, whether it's the EDC, whether it's the Historic Society, whomever it may be, the more input you get, the better off you are. So obviously people are excited to see things, and a lot of the things identified will be addressed or at least discussed within the new master plan. So there will be an opportunity, and I thank the council for putting forth the funding to do not a re-examination, not a quickie, simple municipal land use law satisfactory item, but a real deal master plan. So I know I'm very excited about it. I've spoken to members of the council. They're excited about it. The planning board's excited about it. So
excellent.
This is a good appetizer for what will be the main course coming soon.
Thank you, and I appreciate you listening to me when I come by.
Well, Jim, the time is well overdue. We've known this for quite some time. We finally found the appropriate year to put the money in the budget, and we do definitely. The chamber's going to have to be key in the voice of the businesses there. And one thing they always have to say is how much is it going to cost in tax dollars? you can dream up anything you want, but what are you willing to pay for? I didn't see that question there.
Oh, that's in the longer presentation.
Yeah.
Question, please.
Right, because, Santa Claus wish list, I want everything, but what can I really afford?
It just, it is appreciative that you get to say it, because then the chamber feels like they're being here, just like Rotary hears, and everybody, if everybody's being heard, it doesn't necessarily have to go that way. It's just that everybody has spoken about it, and everybody sees their vote.
Well, I love that beacon idea. Yeah, I love your idea about the beacon, though. We should pursue that.
And we will help you. That's something we'd like to take on as a project through the chamber.
Yeah, it would have to be through the chamber. It can't be the town advertising businesses.
No, but you could tie this in when we launch our new website.
Right.
I wouldn't do it ahead of time because I wouldn't want to launch the old one.
Right.
But it'd be nice, when we have some nice, and we'll talk about that later.
Right, you can't say welcome to Pequannock and then eat at Rita's or go to Rita's or whatever.
Well, I don't think the town would want the liability, God forbid.
No, we wouldn't, but it's something
Looking
definitely to
down at
get
your
behind.
phone, Google is actually sending these out to every single business around.
Yeah.
And they're doing beacons right now, so that's going to be very interesting. But I do agree, I think the businesses should do it, so when you run past Rita's, if it pops up.
Right.
But as far as a town, I don't
Oh,
want
yeah,
the town to have
not
the
the town.
liability of that.
We could separate the two. I just thought that it was, the
Good
town
idea.
itself can have, here's how you get involved, and here's how we get your information.
Right.
The businesses, you know the costing. It's very inexpensive for a business. Pick anyone here. That Atlas. If you put one in Atlas, everybody will see that Atlas has a sale on gym uniforms for the high school. Anybody? No.
But I think you want to tie it in something that would.
Here's a question
Because
about
everything's
M&T Bank. Bob.
Opportunity.
I don't know if this is a question for you. Can, for M&T Bank, can one of the other companies make an agreement with them to use their parking overnight?
Absolutely. Sure.
And is that allowed by the town?
It might involve going to the planning board and getting approval, because they got a site plan that probably showed that many parking. But, that would be something that would be...
So a restaurant might be able to go to M&T Bank and bang out some kind of agreement to
Because we're going to be doing that
rent
with the
their
Chase
parking
Bank.
lot.
Yeah.
We're absolutely doing that with the Chase Bank.
So, I mean,
It's
that could be
down there.
something in the midterm
Right,
for...
during business hours.
Right.
Right.
There's a
Right.
process.
Yeah, no,
It's definitely doable, but there's a process with various variables that have to be
Yeah.
accounted for.
Okay. Thank you.
Good job.
I just wanted to say I appreciate you coming. I know we've talked quite a bit, and I think it's great just, having that input. And I know one of the things I'll report later from Economic Development, it's great to get the business view, because now you have some good, surveys from the business community, and then we're going to have survey results from the building owners as well,
Right.
which is a whole different thing. So it's good to have both.
I like the whole idea of fresh eyes, because you really need fresh eyes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
And
Do
thank you very much.
you want to plug in? Are you next?
Yes, next is
Thanks.
Paul. How do you say your name? Bastante? Silk City Films.
Yes.
Good presentation.
Yeah, it's excellent.
Yeah, it was
So thank you guys for having me here today. I'll be really short. The presentation before mine was very enlightening. I'm in the business of the internet, search engine optimization, marketing. It's a huge deal. The beacons he was bringing up are also a huge deal for business. And I'm actually here today in the name of economic development in terms of Pequannock. And as far as Pequannock is concerned, I'm a graduate of Pequannock Township High School in 1987, currently a resident of Bloomingdale. And the question that I want to throw out to you guys today is, if somebody was to Google Pequannock, New Jersey, what would they find? And that's a really interesting question. And I'll tell you what the answer to that is right now. What they will find is they will find a rather remarkable lip-dub video made by the Pequannock Township High School students, which was done very well. In terms of lip-dub videos, is quite impressive. It also has a lot to do with flooding that comes up, obviously, as you guys know. What should come up is some content that puts the town in a light that is positive. And what I mean is, when today's day and age, when people decide they're deciding to maybe move to a place, or they're deciding on whether to do business in a place, they Google that place to get a sense of what's there and what the town is like and what the income potential there is perhaps and what the people are like. Luckily, I happen to own a company called Silk City Films, and we do historical township documentaries. And we are starting right now to film a documentary in Pequannock Township that I've discussed with some of view, and I wanted to show you a preview of it. What ends up happening with a documentary like this is that the township gets very excited about it. There's going to be a premiere of the movie at the end. February 2019 is when the movie is going to be coming out. At that time, it's a great event for the community to bring them all together, to bring focus on the economic development, things that you guys have going on in the town. I know it's a very hot subject right now, the master plan, all the different things that are going on, and this is kind of falls right into line with that. So because the movie just started filming this week, what I wanted to show you is a premiere of the last one we did for a town right down the road, who happens to have about half of the population in terms of residents that Pequannock does. It happens to have a pretty vibrant business community that could be helped. They're in a very similar situation as Pequannock. When you do Google this particular town, what comes up is this piece of content, which is a completely positive, puts the town in such a light, you want to do business there. And so I interviewed over 100 people for this film. I rode in the back of a garbage truck with their DPW. I rode with their police department. I filmed stops and wellness checks and the whole 9 yards. Rode in the back of a fire truck and basically had the key to the city with the mayor and was able to bring it to life. And so what I want to do tonight is just show you this short preview of what the premiere is like and what it all leads up to, and then if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. The documentary for this particular town was about 1 hour and 40 minutes long. It's a feature length covering all the history of their town. In Pequannock, there's quite a rich history. So, the purposes of the film are to, A, bolster economic development and the potential for business to come here. 2, to have the community rally around and have some civic pride in where you live, and then thirdly, to raise the profile of Pequannock Township. So, I guess without that, should I just go ahead? Is the volume on the TV, or?
Sure, it sounds sexy. Maybe put the microphone up against the... Oh.
You just turn the microphone on.
Is that on? There's no signal.
You still plugged in over there?
Sounds good.
Yeah, I like the music. Nothing.
Are you sure it's not just a plug?
It's the same as it was. I just took the flash out.
Did you have to trigger it to send to the external?
They can escape or something sometimes.
I know.
Are both presentations on a flash drive? No.
This is on media. Mine is, again, this is just a...
It's on the screen, so it should be on that, right?
Yeah.
Or is there a function key to throw?
Technology.
Mr. Hurd?
Tell ya.
Mr. Hurd?
Mr. Hurd, can't you help?
Jeez, unplug the HDMI. Wait 2 seconds, plug it back in again.
That'll be $150.
I thought I called Cablevision. Thank you, Mr. Hurd.
One sound choice for all your needs. Shameless plug.
He gets paid for this.
That was perfect.
What is one thing that you learned as you put this together? Well, I learned a lot of things, and not all of them. I learned that, you need to pay attention. Because when you don't, you miss things. You miss things that you shouldn't miss. Bloomingdale's a lot like that. Bloomingdale, if you're not looking for it, you don't know it, you miss out on the beauty of it. of our borough, that we acknowledge the present that we live in, and that we support the future we're going to. And that is a lot of what this film is about. And I'm honored that Paul is a friend of mine, and at this time it gives me great pleasure to introduce that friend, Mr. Paul Bastante. Let's hear it for Paul.
There's just something about a small town. Something in the way you know your neighbors. And something about small town life.
And so basically that's just a preview of the culmination of the movie. Basically you have 5 months till it's released. And if you guys have any questions about it or anything, I'd be glad to answer them.
What's the cost?
The cost of the movie is free to all your residents to watch for all time.
Well, that part I understood that.
And so, well, I mean, and what I was kind of getting at is that the way we get paid is a combination of sponsorship with business that's in the town. So the township and the businesses basically step up to, be able to give this to the residents, almost as a gift, and as a way for them to also market themselves to the town.
Let me rephrase the question.
$2,000.
Yeah, the town has to pay $2,000.
The town has to pay $2,000. What's the total cost for this? I mean, that you would have to raise through the businesses? Out of curiosity.
There is no set amount. We have a budget that we would like to raise for the making of the movie, so that we can feed our families and that kind of thing. We don't have a certain number.
Okay,
as far as what that is. I mean, that's
the movie would be made. What's the word I'm looking for here? The quality of the movie would depend upon how much money that you.
No. The movie, what the township will get will be a quality feature-length documentary about your town that you can be proud of for the rest of the time, and it will be done with complete pride and complete seriousness. It's a completely legitimate product that we offer, and if you talk to the other towns that we've done and the other documentaries that we've done, it's always a quality product, regardless of the money that we make. However, I'm an aggressive salesperson. I'm out there beating the doors, talking to the business owners, getting them excited, bringing them into the fold, and let's the carts fall where they may. We've had interest that is really just stated simply is just insane. Actually, you'll see it's almost like a hockey stick, and then people really want to get involved. And the reason is because it's inexpensive, and it's also it helps them with their SEO traction, their keyword rankings. It's for your businesses.
So, out of curiosity, why do we have to give $2,000 if you are capable of being an aggressive salesman, raising the money through businesses?
That's why I'm here, talking to you, and for you to attach your name as the town as well. And I think that in order for me to make a film of this magnitude for your town, I will need to do this as a full-time occupation. I will need to get paid, and so that's why I'm here. And make no bones about it, really. Why would the town? You can actually elect to not support it if you'd like. The film will be made regardless of whether the township is supportive of it or not. I would urge the township to be supportive of it because of where you guys are at this particular moment in the history of our town. You're trying to turn a corner here. This is going to be along that mission. This is going to help you to turn the corner. This is going to help you to bring a raised awareness of your town and the positive aspects of it to the community.
Okay, one of our jobs is to watch the nickels and dimes and quarters and dollars and hundreds and thousands and so forth. That's our job, to watch what we're spending money on. And I just want to make sure that we all understand that this town, if we decide, is going to give you $2,000 towards this project, that you're going to be running around soliciting businesses and raising money to make the film.
Well, so what's the question?
There is no question. I'm just making...
Well, I have a question for you. So I imagine since you're doing the film, regardless or not, you're probably going to all of our main events.
I was here today also.
Yeah, so we're having the Pathways tour this weekend, and the Martin Berry House will be open, and the train station and all that.
I'm actually plugged in right now with all your historians, historical people, historical society. The research that I've done is I've definitely done my due diligence for it. We're professionals at this.
Well, I have a question for you about the events where there's children and such. Is there some kind of waiver with people if they're going to be kind of marketed, and I know they do that in the schools when there's if they're going to be photographed and be on the internet and all that. Are you getting types of things from people saying you're going to be in a film and getting releases and things like that?
Well, it depends on what it is. Like today, for instance, at the 9/11 ceremony.
That's a legal thing. I'm just bringing it up. I mean, I'm...
Right. Well, if it does become an issue where that is something where that needs to be done, then we follow all applicable laws and procedures for that. But as far as today was concerned,
it's a public event.
It's a public event. Exactly. Anybody with a camera could be pointing it there and then publishing it for whatever reason. So that in this type of event, there would be no waiver.
Well, I agree with you. We really need a marketing piece because it is true. When you Google Pequannock, you come up with some really pretty nasty things. And there's a lot of good that happens here, and that's not what people get.
People don't realize the people here. This is a town of pretty spirited people. I've grown up here. I definitely am in a very unique position to bring that to the world, because I lived it. I grew up in this town. I know a lot of people here. I know what the people here are like, and I'm going to be able to bring that and tell that story very well. And I do get your sentiment about the public and about people, having to see this, and then, it has to start there. And people have to have a desire to come here. Anything that goes towards that end is something that, to me, is a productive pursuit. So I agree.
Paul,
Yes.
just to give everybody a flavor, I mean, already, I know you kind of hit the ground running. You've already been at some major events. Tell them some of the things you were at. He taped the full Jones Hardware.
So just to give you guys an idea of how these things work, every town is like a family, a company, a workspace, if you will, right? And everybody in that town has their role. And so for, I think that when people look to go to a place, they want to see like what those things are. So our films have segments to them, and they all possess feature sections of film. So in Pequannock, in terms of Pequannock, the features we're talking about here are Revolutionary War stuff that happened. Your Dutch settlements and Indian settlements up to the point, and why, why the Pompton Trail, how that figured into prominently, why 23 is the way it is, and things like this. One of the features is also First Reformed Church, one of the oldest and most beautiful churches with rich history that there is around. That's a feature here as well. Jones's Hardware is another place that that your town that resonates with. There were how many people at the event where Robbie Jones spoke at the VFW Hall. I was there for that. We recorded that, and we'll use some of that in the film. But in addition to that, we're also interviewing Robbie and the family and putting together a feature part of the film. In addition to those type of features, we also have other things in the town, like your DPW, your police station, your fire department, what they do, what kind of equipment they have. People want to know if they come to a town that it's a place that is competent in, providing emergency personnel if my home was to be burning, things like that. So yeah, we not only do those features, but we also tell the entire story of, and try to give you guys like a humanizing kind of a feel.
How many of these films have you done?
Four or five.
Is there a piece of the film where the Bloomingdale mayor talked about the future? Is there a part in there where you put in where the town's kind of going to?
Yeah, and it's interesting. The mayor there reads a couple of things from the time capsule that was put in the ground in 1968. So he reads the letter that was written by Daniel Morse, who was the mayor in 1968, and then Daniel Morse makes reference to a few things that are still a problem today. So ironically enough, as he's reading this letter from the mayor from 50 years ago, that mayor is telling him that we had one of the largest floods we've ever had yesterday, May 29th. And in that flood, we thought we were going to lose our monuments down the river. Now, Bloomingdale has a place called Sloan Park, which has monuments, first 9/11, and things that like a lot of towns have, including yourself. And you know what? He was able to address now what they're doing to improve Sloan Park today, which is to put a drainage basin in the middle of it, letting the river go where it should go in order to prevent flooding. And they have very similar issues to what you guys have. Thank you so much. Sorry. They have very similar issues, and he was able to address those. So the answer is yes. But I would urge you to look at the film. It's called Bloomingdale, An American Small Town. That's our most recent release. If you Google that, you can watch the whole thing, and there's many, many parts of the film where people are talking about today, and how things are relevant today. And that's important. It's a documentation of history. So yes.
So are we voting on this? What are we doing?
No, it was just a presentation.
No, he's just giving you an idea.
Just to make you excited and...
Where did the $2,000 come from then?
I will find it in the budget.
Yeah.
If we agree to it.
It's beneath the threshold for the council's legislative authority.
I think it's a great idea. I think the town needs to buy into that to help promote.
We have been struggling with economic development for as long as I've been sitting here. And it's time we need to start doing a few things to get some excitement around stuff.
So thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I think it's great.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Nice to put a name to a face. I've written all your stuff. I've read all your stuff, and I'm a respectful person of your work. So thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay. At this time, are there reports or comments from any volunteers serving our community? I don't know if I can see everybody, so just kind of, hi, Joe.
Joe Wells, 5 Washington Street, Chairman Open Space Committee in Pequannock and Chairman of the Morris County Board of Transportation. It was very interesting listening to these two gentlemen, because the things that I do on open space and what I've done in the town basically follow along the same things that I think the council and many of the town people want. We want to improve the image of the town and let people know what we really have here. And it's a fabulous town with so many great features. And some of the things that I've been involved in, like the Riverwalk, we've taken flood houses, taken them out of the picture, created a recreation area in their place, and we're going to have a town with the rail trail, the Riverwalk, and hopefully the opening of Pequannock Park in conjunction with those things. That's going to be the recreation center place of the state. You can bike, hike, walk, it's many beautiful places, the lake, the swimming. That's what the town should be.
Yeah.
Pardon?
It's time to connect the dots. It's time to connect the dots.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We should be noted for what we really are, a beautiful community that people want to live in and would love to visit because of all the recreational opportunities we have. And to speak to those things, I just want to, about the meeting we had last night in open space, I reported the fact that my grant for a portion of the Riverwalk was completed. The town has been reimbursed for all the monies that they've spent, and our grant was considered one of the better issues and allows us to go back for a future grant. And another thing that came, we took a vote in the town, and our next project is going to be improving Aquatic Park and tying the terminus of the rail trail, the Riverwalk section that goes from Aquatic Park to Jackson Avenue all together, and try and have that completed when the trail is completed in late 2019 or early 2020. So, and that again would give us a great opportunity to have a showplace in the state, recreationally wise. And one other thing I just want to mention with regard to the rail trail, we're going to have a public meeting October 11th at the Senior House from 6 to 8 o'clock. Should be getting some flyers that could be there. We'll give them out at the meeting or before at Town Hall. I'll let the council become aware of that. So I'm sure a lot of the citizens would like to see the finished design with regards to the rail trail. Basically, that's it. Any questions? Comments?
October 11th at the Senior House from when to when?
6 to 8 o'clock. The NV5 is the design engineer architect firm that has been doing the trail, and they will show the finished design. We've already met with town administrator and other safety officials about some of the features of the trail. Very briefly, it's going to be a 10-foot wide macadam, permeable macadam. In other words, water will drain through it, but you can bicycle and skateboard and so forth on it. It'll be terminating at River Road at the north end of town and ending in Mountain View at the rail station. I've reported a lot of this previously, but anybody that really wants to know the nuts and bolts of the design can come on the 11th and ask questions of the design team.
Do you think that'll be a large enough venue, the Senior House?
It's hard to say. If you look around tonight, there's probably some pretty interesting topics on the agenda for tonight, but it hasn't drawn a lot of interest. We'll see. I wonder.
I bet you if you say skateboarding, you'll get a lot of people there.
Skateboarding is going to be part of It's going to be part of it.
If you want people to come, if you don't want them to come, don't mention it.
Being that you did mention that, I want to add one other thing. The open space is going to be, again, at the Hoedown. We'll have an exhibit there. We'll have maps of both the Riverwalk and the rail trail, and I'll have some photography of all the people that volunteered. Speaking of the skateboard park, skateboarders were very helpful in the mayor's cleanup. in our invasive species removal on the Riverwalk, and also highly involved in the planting of the 400 trees that we got from...
How are they doing, Joe? How are the trees?
They are doing fabulous.
We got plenty of rain.
We got a lot of rain this year.
I cannot take, although I
Take full
dragged
credit.
400 feet of hose through those woods many a time to water them, but nature gave me a really big boost, so they're doing extremely well. My original estimate of 50 to 80% survival, I think we're on track for the higher number there.
That's great.
They're actually growing out of the 6-foot tubes and actually coming out the top, so we actually have to prune. The next job we have to do on the trees is to prune all of those so they just don't go out inside the tube, they actually grow out.
Right.
And they go up, so the main stem is what we want, and hopefully within a short time they'll be self-sustaining, but our requirement is to maintain them for 48 months.
Okay. You know what I did notice, Joe, when you talked about the mayor's cleanup, and we always do Alexander, the jug handle there.
Yeah.
I don't know who is responsible. I don't know if Councilman Cole or somebody, or I see a no litter sign, $200 fine, and I do see less litter there.
I would disagree, pardon Kathy, but I just was through there yesterday.
Oh, there's litter, but
And
not
it-
like it was.
Well, in such a short time, you remember that
I know.
we clean, I
was
see
there.
everyone that was there is here. We all work together. In fact, there'll be a great picture at the hoedown with everybody behind my truck there.
Yeah, that
with
was
all their,
All right,
dirty
thanks.
clothes on. But the thing is that I would love to see some, I think about standing there myself with a movie camera. I'm standing there just with a camera to talk to people. I know the danger of stopping people to tell them what they're doing because they could be hit from behind. But I just feel it's a subject that just hurts.
Well, I think Kentucky
It
Fried
actually
Chicken
physically
needs a
hurts me to
garbage
think about.
can.
Those people
Yeah.
are townspeople, because when you use that jug handle to come into Alexander Avenue, it's not a
I
bypass
don't know
person.
that.
It's not a person, I disagree. The people that bypass our town go up to 23 or up to Turnpike. People that turn into Alexander Avenue are coming into Pequannock
And you
specifically.
don't know what for.
Whatever, but the thing is that whether
I'll leave it at that.
they're clients of our town or, and I feel, my personal opinion is that the majority of those people, the overwhelming majority, are townspeople, and they have no consideration for that, and I would love to nail those people some way, and I believe we should talk to
I
the
think the
police.
camera.
Adam, I would ask that maybe we see if a policeman could be there once in a while as a deterrent. Now, there's a safety aspect to it that I clearly see, that if you stop somebody in a jug handle,
He's going to be jumping out from the...
Number of 36.
but maybe, we have to do something. If anybody has an idea, maybe somebody on the council has a thought there. But
Mayor,
it's
were
just-
you asking for Councilman Cole to jump out of the bushes and get somebody as they're going around?
No, I think maybe it'll.
No, we just spent a good 45 minutes listening to what's bad about coming into the town.
And litter.
And how it looks, and what we should do to beautify it, and what we should do. And I think one of the disgraces, when you pull into Alexander Jug Handle, it looks like Newark. I mean,
Although it is getting better every year, though. I mean, we've been putting a lot of effort into
We
picking up garbage.
clean it up.
Less
We do a great job of cleaning it up, and there's no more boilers and tractor and trailer tire and wheels there. I agree with that. But there's more paper cups and needles and bottles and
know.
so forth. It's really a disgrace. I wish there was a way we could do it. Anyway, I'm sorry to get on
We
that.
probably need 2
you're right.
years, yeah. All right, thank you, Joe.
Okay, thank you.
Any other volunteers? No? Next on the agenda is public comments. This public comment period will be limited to a total of 30 minutes. An additional period of public comment is reserved later in the meeting. Individuals are requested to limit their questions and comments to 3 minutes. If anyone wishes to address the council, please wait to be recognized to come to the microphone and provide your name and address for the record.
Don't hold whole story.
I was just going to say that.
Okay. The next item on our agenda is the manager's report. Mr. Brewer.
Thank you, Mayor, and I apologize for the length of the report. I'll do my best to be brief. To cover items brought up at the last meeting, first, there was a discussion based upon a recommendation of the Shade Tree Commission that there be a prohibition on the removal of trees in the right-of-way. Mr. Oostdike was kind enough to peruse the township's existing ordinances, and we have an existing prohibition on that. There is essentially no ability to remove a tree in the right-of-way without a permit, which has to be issued by the Shade Tree Commission. So we have that already in place. I don't know if we want to change that or do some other approach. I leave that to the council's direction. But we do, and I'll circle back to the Shade Tree Commission and let them know that this does exist and people can't do it now.
Bob, how'd you find this? Was it buried or?
I guess I don't know how buried, it's in the code book. But it wouldn't be easy to jump, it wouldn't jump out at you, right?
Okay, that's the first question. The second is, there's no teeth to this. I mean...
Well, there is, though. Well, you don't see it here, but you can be fined for any of these violations. For doing it without a permit, there's a fine provision in the code. So you can be fined.
All right, so I'll take this back to the Shade Tree Commission.
And they're working on the code book. So
Currently, we don't have a searchable code. We're going to be moving forward with a new searchable code that you can type in and it'll come up.
It's very hard.
Maybe we should revisit the fine part of it.
No, maybe it isn't enough. We can look at that.
If it was written like in the 60s, maybe it's $15. Maybe we should
probably
up that a little bit.
And then we could pay for the movie.
The next item, there was reference to an abandoned vehicle. A vehicle was removed shortly after the meeting, and my understanding is that a great weekend was enjoyed by all at PV Park. We had the presentations. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Paul. Based on some conversations with some members of council, members of the public, there were also some questions that were presented to me with respect to the Mountain Avenue water tank and the West Parkway water main projects. Very pleased to report that at the time the memo was written, the final solution hadn't been put in place for filling the tank. For the benefit of the public, the tank was designed to fill by static pressure. So when there's water not being used within the system, it will fill up, and then when we need a lot of water in the morning, typically during showers and flushes, it will draw down. Getting the initial fill was a little challenging. It was the contractor's obligation to get the tank filled, and it wasn't going as well as we had hoped it would because they didn't initially have the equipment. So they were at about 60% full when the memo was written last Friday, and now we anticipate it to be 100% full by tomorrow.
Awesome.
So do they pump the water into that?
Initially, it's going to be pumped into it, but normally it's designed to function like a circulatory system, and the benefit is right now the tanks at Greenview are at grade. So there's constant need for electricity to keep our water from turning on. So the idea with the elevated tank, credit to Mr. Holberg and the entire design team and the council, was to have it so that gravity will take care of that and save us money moving forward.
How does gravity get the water to go up?
The static pressure of the system is not being pulled upon. So there's a constant pressure within the system. So if it's not being drawn down on during the high periods, it'll fill back up. We also have the ability to increase that pressure when we activate the pumps at the wells. So there is a human intervention that's capable.
How long before we would be able to take out the one at Greenview Park?
Based on the conversations with the engineer today, I hope to have the tank treated, the water approved, ready to go into the system in a couple of weeks. We have to make sure everything works, and then exactly how soon thereafter, I don't know, but it's going for 2018.
So
that's great.
You need to scrap rate on that metal. Call me. I'll get rid of it for you.
I bet it's going for something good, yeah. And again, the ultimate goal is to save operational costs and increase the efficiency of our system.
Exactly.
With respect to West Parkway water main, the water main project, which is the transmission from the tank, and there's some other services associated with that, is substantially complete. There are some punch list items outstanding, and most significantly, anybody who's driven down West Parkway recently, the quality of the pavement restoration leaves a lot to be desired. Met with the contractor today with the engineers, and he's going to have a plan in place by the end of this week where a lot of those trenches are going to have to be milled, they're going to have to be retacked, they're going to have to be refilled and recompacted. Again, the goal is to have that not only drivable today, but survive the winter, and when we ultimately go to mill it and pave it next year, which is the goal, have a good base on which to work. So there was some back and forth, but we made positive headway this afternoon.
That's great. Good.
With respect to Mountain Avenue reconstruction, this is the third time I've reported on the anticipated paving of Mountain Avenue. Unfortunately, hopefully the last, and we're getting to the end of the contract period, so I don't want to have to go into any of those liquidated damages or other issues we have the ability to pursue. But we anticipate paving to be sometime in October, early October. The residents were notified. There was some intermediary fixes that were done, so the roadway wasn't terrible. There was some temporary paving done to make sure everything was safe. Concrete work's all done, curbs are done, driveway aprons are done. We're happy with that work, and we're looking forward to that being completed. Special thanks to Bobby Joe Murphy, OEM coordinator, Dave Segling of DPW, and officer in charge, Chris DePite. The team worked to put together a FEMA application for reimbursement for the March 6th and 7th snowstorms. So based upon a little bit of paperwork and a little bit of effort, we're hoping to recover $36,000 of costs associated with the manpower and the moving of the snow and the emergency protective measures. So I just want to make the council aware that that had been submitted and preliminarily approved by FEMA. Obviously, it has to go through the full approval process down somewhere south before it gets approved and come back. Within the resolutions scheduled for consideration of the council tonight, there is a resolution authorizing the award of a contract for a new website service provider. The township's website, it was discussed earlier, it's something that has been identified as in need of an upgrade and an update. So provided the council sees fit, we went out and did comply with all the required procurement laws. Civic Plus is the recommended vendor. Some websites they've done recently include Morris Township, Livingston, Rockaway Township. It's going to be a custom-made website specifically for the Township of Pequannock. Not only does it increase the usability, it increases the ability to take payments online to make it more convenient for residents. It increases communication. So, for example, if someone's interested in open space or if someone's interested in the Flood Advocates page, any change that's made on that page, if you sign up, you can receive a text message that there's been an update as well as an email. So there will be not just simple listservs, but there will be greater communication and a major update and upgrade in how we can find things. For those people that know where things are on our website, it is chock full of very valuable information. Sometimes it's just a little hard to find it. So if the council sees fit to authorize the award of that contract, we would hopefully be going live sometime in February or March of 2019. And lastly, Newark-Pompton Turnpike, Jacksonville Road, the County of Morris is going to be doing a resurfacing project. In addition to resurfacing in the Pequannock section on Newark-Pompton Turnpike, there had been a large study done on walkability and restriping and how to enhance the appearance of the street and obviously fixing the curbs in all those areas. So that will be included in this project. September 24th, the old On or About is the anticipated start time for those, and they will be done this fall. So that's, again, consistent with all the positive momentum and good things happening. It will be nice to see those projects move forward.
I saw the signs popping up, warning people. They'll be still in shock the day that it happens.
And the goal, just so everyone's aware of anybody watching, the goal is to leave one lane of traffic open at all times because both of those streets are major arterial roadways coming and going, not only from town but through town. So the goal will be not to close down those streets. Obviously, it's a county project, and they'll be working with the police department to make that happen. Balance of the items in my report are scheduled for discussion. Unless there's any questions, I thank you all very much.
So I would imagine that the sidewalks are going on Jacksonville will probably be done after the paving?
That is what it is appearing to be, yes.
Okay, anybody have any questions for Adam before we move on?
Nope.
Okay, next on the agenda, public hearing ordinance 2018-20. Ms. Morse.
Ordinance number 2018-20 is an ordinance appropriating $10,000 from the sewer utility capital fund balance for capital improvements for the sewer utility in and by the Township of Pequannock in the County of Morris, New Jersey.
Are there any comments from council?
No, we talked about this last time.
Okay, is there a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
If anyone in the audience has questions or comments on this ordinance, please come to the microphone and identify yourself for the record. Okay. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance?
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2018-20.
I'll second it.
Okay, Richard's got it.
Roll
You guys
call.
work your side, we'll work our side, okay?
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mayor Winterfield?
Yes. Next on the agenda is public hearing ordinance 2018-21. Ms. Marsh.
Ordinance number 2018-21 is an ordinance amending the revised general ordinances of the Township of Pequannock, regulating door-to-door solicitation and establishing a do not solicit list.
Are there any comments from council?
Yeah, let's just go over this again with Mr. Uzdike.
Yeah.
As a politician, I
We're
should be
excluded.
Correct?
I brought this up last time.
Yeah.
I can tell you, there's laws, there's case law out there.
Well, there's case law now going the other way that says you have to treat everybody the same. So that's an issue. Right now, I think we're going to leave it undefined. I don't think that's...
when you say leave it undefined...
I say we're not, if we create an exception in here and call out an exception, we're opening ourselves up to a challenge.
A guy like Nick can't go knock on people's doors?
Well, right now he can, and he always will be able to, because right now nobody signed up on the do not solicit list.
Hurry up, Nick.
I think you got time, plenty of time.
I think you got time.
No, but what you're saying
was a Boy
is
Scout.
once this goes in...
You'll have to respect the
effect,
do not solicit list.
and if everybody all of a sudden says, I don't want all these
Thanks,
school board
Jim.
candidates
Yeah,
and
they may say
politicians
that.
coming to the door, they can
what,
sign
guys?
up.
There's all
And door-to-door is door-to-door, though. I mean, it's the same on the Boy Scouts and everything.
Yeah, that's the problem.
But now the reason
But
that...
today, if somebody posted a do not solicit sign in front of their house, that would not be, you would have to respect that.
Oh,
And they don't work either.
They don't work.
I have them at my building,
Yeah.
and
People
we
come in
still got
and...
the pizza guy.
We have it at our building.
You need a big dog.
Come in.
Yeah.
Yeah, vicious dog. Vicious
So
dog
the
will
main
work.
difference is that we're just setting up a do not solicit list, which we didn't have before.
Instead of the itinerant vendor thing.
Right.
That does not work.
Instead of the itinerant vendor thing. which does.
Can I reverse it? If I want to put myself on the do not solicit list, can I say politicians only?
You could.
I don't want politicians
Yeah,
coming to
I mean,
my
I think
house.
that's going to create...
You know how they are. They stop at your door, they don't shut up. They just talk.
Just don't answer the door when they come.
I think,
Look out the window,
I think
don't
we
open
can
the
only
door.
have one list. And I don't think we can have a list with some. That's going to create...
It's going to be rough to manage anyway.
I'm having...
Yeah, it's going to be a rough to manage.
What was that?
I'm having an issue with it. I'm having an issue with it. I mean, yeah, I
It wasn't an
understand.
election year, would you have an issue?
Yeah, I would still have an issue with it. How the hell's Nick? I'm sorry.
Poor Nick.
Gonna knock on doors?
I don't think Nick has to. I think he's going to win anyway.
Okay. So, whether I was being elected or not, I think it's unfair to certain groups as politicians and church groups and so forth, et cetera, that suddenly you can't knock on people's doors. I have
And
an
it's
issue
not
with
just
it.
It's private
politicians. I mean,
property.
It's also Board of Ed members. if you
It's
want to
Board of
get
Ed
out
members,
there.
it's, you know.
Or candidates, they want to get out there and
Yeah, but there's no
constituents,
difference
so.
from do not call, whether you're a politician or
Yeah,
or
right.
trying
I was
to
a
get
little
window
worried about
service.
this too, because I'm just saying, just suppose there's a group that decides to rally that group and say, all sign up on the do not solicit list.
That's fine.
That could easily happen.
You know, it's private property, and if you don't want people to come
Yeah.
on your property, it's for you to say.
But there's still other avenues. You can still send snail mail. You can still do other. You can still market to them. You just
You can
can't
still
show
be
up
in
at the
public
door.
places, talking to
Stand
people
on
and
the
signing out
sidewalk and
brochures.
send them a paper airplane.
Just can't be electioneering within, what is it, 200 feet, 100 foot of the...
Well, it's still only for a public hearing, you know.
Bob, if I'm sorry, Mary, are there any issues with our existing ordinance with respect to compliance if we don't make a change?
Yeah, I would suggest if we change from this, we probably eliminate licensing solicitation at all and just let people go. Anybody who wants to go door to door then goes door to door.
If the decision is not to change to this, though,
Right.
are there any issues with our existing ordinance with respect to compliance with the current law?
Yeah, our current ordinance is too restrictive on commercial speech right now.
So we need to repeal it anyway, then.
Right.
Okay.
This changes that, but we could...
This is a repeal.
Of that, yeah,
Like a
this changes the
replacement,
system.
yeah.
This, instead of saying certain groups can't go door to door without a solicitation license, says anybody can go door to door unless the individual in their home formally says we do not want
It's just like the
people coming
phone,
door to
it's
door.
like the do not.
It is- well, it's modeled
It's
after the do
similar,
not phone.
yeah, it's like
So
the
wait a
other
minute,
phone.
Bob, you're saying
If you
that
don't make a change.
if we don't make a change,
We're kind of exempt.
We're in violation.
and someone wants to solicit in town right now, they have to go to the town clerk and they have to let us
Yes.
know.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you're saying that we will do away with that?
We'll have to change that system. We can't do the way we have it now, because now we say certain people have to come to the clerk and get a license and other people don't. And we say that, we don't just say you have to get a license, we have rules about investigating people, we have rules about times when people can go soliciting. We'll have to relook at those, which we can do.
All right.
So,
Is the main problem
So
with
again,
it is that
if we
it's...
don't make a change yet, and the school board candidates and ourselves want to go door to door,
You have to pull a permit now.
do we have to, no,
No,
don't
today
make a
you don't.
change. We don't
Right,
have
okay.
to pull a permit, and we're not we're kind of exempt from that. You're
Yes.
allowed to.
Everyone is going to be exempt.
Right.
Everyone will be exempt, that's right.
Yeah.
Right, anybody can do
Oh,
anything.
anyone.
Yes,
Because
because of the way
says that
things
we're
are
too
changing.
restricted right now.
Right.
Today, we pick certain types of speech, and we say those people can just go door to door freely.
And those are-
Rich
those
is
are-
right that the courts have forced that when it
Right.
comes to certain religious
So,
groups and
right.
certain political speech
Right.
and other things. What the courts are now saying is, well, all speech is the same. So
Right.
if you don't allow, if we tell you you have to allow politicians to go door to door, then we're going to
Yeah,
tell you
however.
you have to
Yeah,
allow
you can't
traveling
pick and
salesmen
choose.
to go door to
You can
door.
no longer pick and choose.
that's the problem with the court system.
I
They'll
don't
make up their
disagree.
mind.
I don't disagree. It was one way for a long time, and now it's opening up.
Right.
Yeah.
So, again,
So you got to think about our residents
So right now, the
and kind of
groups-
what's good, for
The
them.
groups that have to get a permit now are just,
Will no longer have to get a permit.
right, but I'm just saying the ones that have to
But
get
see,
a
the
permit
problem
now.
is, and you see how things are, like when Renewal by Anderson or any of those people go around, it becomes a
They're
nightmare.
supposed to get permits.
But with this, they won't have to.
Yeah.
With this, they won't have to.
But you can sign up so
You
they
can sign
don't.
up to say, we don't want anybody coming door to door.
and what happens when that person knocks on my door? I politely say, I'm on the do not sign list.
Yeah, and frankly, you can call the clerk the next day and say there was a violation, somebody came to my door, so-and-so was at my door.
So
You
what would happen?
Their ability to solicit in Pequannock would be
Isn't
suspended.
it? Right.
They would
I
be
knock on
fined.
your
Carol
door.
goes after him.
I believe the first offense is a warning.
The first
Yes.
offense would be a warning.
I knock on your
It's the
door.
second
Bob,
time.
You're on the do not call list.
Yeah.
You're going to call Carol and say that Rich Film is soliciting at your house.
I-
As an example.
I just think the timing is so
And Carol's
bad
gonna
because you're going
give
to
a stern
have
warning.
people from
And
the
you're gonna give
county
me a
and
stern
everything
warning.
else.
You can't do this based on that.
Yeah.
You
Well,
can't
I'm
do
just
this
saying-
based on that. You have to take yourself out of that equation.
No, I know, but I'm just
You
saying.
cannot.
It's going to happen.
That cannot be for your
My
decision
sense is
making.
That's going to happen. People
I put it
probably
on
are
a
so
list.
used to that, they won't complain
No,
about that.
this is not. No.
Forget the election here, right? You know,
No, you got to think about the people you're representing and what they want and what they need. And,
But I don't know
You
if
know?
I'm okay with taking away
Yeah.
all of the restrictions we have.
who's there?
Yeah, I'm having a
well,
problem.
because you put something in place doesn't mean that you can't look at it later as case law changes or anything changes and or there's lawsuits
How
about
about
discrimination.
just a sticker on the door? Do not solicit.
Yeah, why does that?
Well, this sort of even avoids the need to do that. You don't have to put any, one of the concepts with this is you don't have sign pollution because you don't have everybody putting things up on their doors or in their yard
Right.
saying do not solicit. You have a neat list, which the burden goes on the solicitor to look at the list and know what goes on.
We
One
reviewed this. We
possibility.
talked about this.
Yeah,
I don't know what happened all of a sudden.
I get the
But I
concern.
brought it up last
Yeah.
time and that's not right.
I mean, this isn't the first time we had this discussion, but if you really want to, I don't know what you want to do, because we have to do something about the itinerant
You can't
vendors.
do a do not solicit list and just on the ones that had to get permits before.
Yeah, no, I'm not recommending that because I think that's going to get us right back to the same place. We'll
Yeah,
sort
you're
of picking and choosing which kind of speech we want to
I
allow.
just,
Okay, Bob.
I understand the problem though, Rick.
Okay, I'm going to ask this question again.
Yep.
I knock on your door, you're
On the do not
call
solicit list, right.
You call Carol and say,
Yes.
Rich Phil knocked on my door. Then I go knock on another door and they call Carol and say, Rich Phil knocked on my door. I'm getting plugs in here, Nick. Okay? What are you going to do to me? What are you going to do to me?
First time there's a warning, do not go to houses that are on the do not call list. The next time, you are removed from the you cannot solicit, And if you do, you can be fined. That's the reality.
What's the fine? I didn't see it in here.
The fine is our standard fine through all our ordinances. It's minimum of $50. It can go as high as $500 if that's what the judge imposes. Per offense.
Per offense. Yeah.
Good thing
All that I can say is if we're going to put this on the back burner, we're not putting it on the back burner and bringing it up right in 2020.
Yeah, because
that's when my term is up.
This should not be about.
I would really like to see there's got to be another alternative.
the problem
Well, there
is
is. Another alternative would be to not regulate the door-to-door solicitation.
Right, just
you
let
can
it be.
still have people register. We just have to have, we'd have to have a uniform system.
How bad is it? I mean,
Is it really?
I guess you don't read
Door-to-door
Facebook.
solic- I don't know.
get one of those Ring doorbells, you look who it is, oh, I'm not answering the door, sorry.
Well, I guess the main thing is we have to do something. We have to get rid of the itinerant.
Well, we
vendor
can
thing.
fix the itinerant vendor.
Or
ordinance if you want us to go
modify
that
it.
way.
Yeah, or
we can do
modify
that
it.
too. That's
Why don't you
another alternative.
modify it for now?
yeah, because again,
And it's not urgent. I mean, it's not like we have to act at this moment, and it's something we have to do. We fixed.
And you can't see the person.
That's a problem.
And we have worked through the problems. We've worked with vendors who have come and complained and made it work. So it's not like it's...
But again, it's not that rampant in the town where, every day.
Yeah, vendors here.
Okay, well, let's go, well, I think we're ready to go through this, and then we can vote no if you want to vote no. But we'll open it. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make that motion, open ordinance 2018-21 public.
Do I have a second?
I see somebody in the crowd.
Okay, I'll make a second.
All right, all in favor, okay. If anyone in the audience has questions or comments on this ordinance, please come to the microphone and identify yourself for the record.
Frank Spazeri, 35 West Franklin Avenue.
Okay.
Also, I own a house in Butler, and when I first brought this up, I have been on that do not solicit list up there, and my question is to Bob, actually. What kind of resolution do they have, or what kind of a thing do they have to do not solicit? Because the paper I signed only says that I don't want them to come to my house. It doesn't give me the rules of who you stopped from coming. Like
The same.
we're all
It's the same thing here. It's
Same.
Yeah. Any door-to-door solicitation.
Okay. But that's everybody?
Yeah.
See, the whole idea is not to pick and choose.
Okay.
That's
That's what I just wanted to verify, that either that or I would go up there and ask.
Yeah. Now,
Mr. Lampman.
there's rules on the books, and it's the way it happens. Does anybody call when a Girl Scout comes, walking down the street? Probably not.
They don't come
If you want me to be,
Depends if they've still got their Thin Mints. If they're not selling Thin Mints anymore.
So we can keep if we sign this, we can keep politicians away from our house, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Oh, good.
Not from going down the street and talking to you in your yard, no, but coming door to door, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, good point.
Okay, that
So I
was
could be
my...
walking past and see somebody in the yard, and I can have a
Absolutely.
conversation.
Absolutely.
That was just my question of what they did up there, because...
So my question, Frank, is how often are you staying up there, and how often are you staying?
Well, my sister-in-law lives there, and she doesn't get bothered at all with anybody, and my daughter lives right
Only
next
every
door,
other
same
year he
thing.
gets out of town for a little while.
So it does work.
Okay.
There you go.
All right, is there anyone else?
Nick DiStefano, 28 Greenwood Ave. I figure I had to put in my 2 cents. You might remember I brought this up 4 years ago, and it's really about concentrating on what really the problem is. And the story I had said when I had come up here was about some of these sketchy salespeople targeting senior citizens, where they would actually skip. I would watch them skip and then go to the 74-year-old neighbor and try to sell them a driveway or a chimney sweep or something like that, and they would complain to me, and that's most of the complaining I hear is from that kind of, where it's like, who is this sketchy person? They're not in a uniform, they're not and they're not, like you said, it's like they're picking and choosing. And on my street, I actually would watch them just target the senior citizens, and that's what I had brought up years ago. So hopefully, however, that gets decided or crafted, it's really focusing on the real problems. Some of these people coming into the town where it is kind of shaky the way they're approaching this door to door.
What's your recommendation, Nick?
Excuse me?
What's your recommendation?
Well, like Bob said, the way it's written right now, I mean, probably the way you'd have to do it is include everyone. But the issue is some of these people that, nobody's quite clear who they are or what they are, just enforce the fact that people have to notify the town if they feel that something's not right in whatever their solicitation is. Because like I said, I've seen sometimes where it's like, because our street, there's no houses on the other side of the street. It's just the one side of the street. So you kind of watch how, okay, why are they knocking on that door? Because there's no cars in the driveway, but they're skipping our houses with cars, and you're just like, that's shaky.
Right. What is your recommendation here? We're trying to get
no. I just said, I mean, you would probably have to keep it open to everybody, but really have like a community enforcement of saying, hey, listen, if something doesn't look right, report it to the police.
That's a whole safety issue. That's really different than putting in this policy. Yeah, that's really different than what we're talking about here.
Bob, quick question.
Yeah.
Is there, how do I phrase this? Can we also put in the ordinance that you must have identification on you?
Yeah, and that's in here. And
That's in
it
here.
is in would require that.
I think everybody should have read it.
Yes.
How about we do this?
Well, right now, we're in the public section. Well, we can vote and say no, and then you can start over. So let's go through the process, all right?
Nick.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, let's go. Yeah, you can vote now, and we can start over, but let's just get through the
we're
process.
still open.
Well, no, we're open to public. We're open to the public right now. Council had their comments, okay? If you're not ready to vote yes, you can vote no when we get to it. Okay, is there anyone else from the public? Speak now or forever, not forever, hold your peace, but for now. Okay, all right. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance?
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 2018-21.
Okay. Is there a second? I'll second it, just to move it along. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
No.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
No.
Mr. Phelan?
No.
Mayor Winterfield?
Yes. Okay.
Motion
there you go.
does not
There you
carry.
go, you got your answer.
Moving right along.
Now you just go back to go. Okay. Next on the agenda is introduction for ordinances. Ms. Marsh.
Ordinance number 2018-22 is an ordinance canceling certain capital project balances to Capital Improvement Fund and reappointing $103,000 as an improvement authorization for Town Hall building improvements, and further appropriating the sum of $248,000 as an improvement authorization for design and planning of renovations and upgrades to Town Hall and other professional services.
Okay, Mr. Brewer, any comments? I hope you have some.
Yes, the Reader's Digest version and the interpretive statement, if you will. In the 2018 capital budget, there's a $350,000 appropriation for an architect to be retained to do design work to build a new municipal building. In January of this year, there was an emergency wherein $103,000 needed to be spent to replace the HVAC system for the section of the building.
Could they change those? Could they cover those up or something? Those black pieces of plastic?
I have no idea. We obviously can change them.
Yeah, I think they did that just because of the winter.
Well, they're probably to filter the air in, and they're not using that anymore. They're using the ceiling now.
We can make it look nice.
Yeah, but they could have made it look a little nicer. But we're the only ones.
Which is coming.
We're the only ones that should be able to make it look a little
You're
nicer.
killing my momentum.
Yeah, go ahead. No, he was on a roll.
I was going.
Hey, Adam, what's that?
That was a distraction.
The $103,000 needs to be raised to pay for that emergency. So in an effort to satisfy that, I looked at the available sources of funds, and knowing that there was an appropriation for the municipal building, I thought that that would be a potentially acceptable use of the funds. The alternative would be to do an emergency and raise the funds, or do an emergency now, and the funds would have to be raised in the succeeding years. So the reappropriation or the reauthorization allows $103,000 to be used for that. The balance of the money, the language has changed somewhat, allowing for the use of professionals, because one of the questions that I have is whether or not there's been any analysis of the building as it exists to determine what options would be available. I'm not necessarily saying the township isn't going to build a new municipal building. I'm not necessarily saying the township is going to build a new municipal building. I just would like to learn a little bit more. And I would be able to utilize, if the council sees favorable to act on this ordinance and approve it, that the funds would be available to use to hire a consultant or a professional to come in and do an analysis of the HVAC system, the plumbing, the infrastructure, to determine not only what the cost might be to build a new municipal building, but also to enhance, renovate, or expand this building. So in a nutshell, the substantive change is the use of the money to satisfy the obligation of the $103,000 with the emergency appropriation for the HVAC system, and the balance having relaxed language to allow for a consultant to do some analysis and provide us with a report.
So it may not be all that money, the 240.
I would never anticipate, no.
Yeah.
No,
Most likely,
certainly won't. But again, if the decision ultimately is made to build a municipal building, that's not going to happen in 2018. The balance, and if additional money was necessary, could be appropriated in the future, and the balance could still be used for that purpose.
For architectural.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
Architectural, engineering, whatever professional services associated with the building would be necessary.
Do you have an idea of what we're looking at to bring someone in?
I do not.
We haven't gotten that far.
He probably hasn't had a chance to get to that yet. Yeah. Okay. Do you have any other questions, Dave?
So we're still looking at $350,000, correct?
The appropriation within the 2018 capital budget was made with money that is from reserves or otherwise is cash. So it's the cash exists, the township has the appropriation, it's just shifting what it's being allowed to be used for.
It's just,
So it's
reappropriating.
Correct.
Yeah.
Sum total stays the same.
It's just reappropriating what was already appropriated.
Right, because you really can't change the budget.
Correct. Absent your authority, I can't
But it
use it for
doesn't
anything.
mean that we're using it for necessarily that. We're just, again,
No, we're using 103 to.
but we are
towards
using
the air
103,
conditioning.
which was necessary because
Right.
your
Correct.
comment before was, if we don't take it from here, you're going to have to raise it.
In the future year's budget.
Yeah.
And if we have the
so
cash.
This makes sense to cover that 103. And then putting,
And then the balance can be used, instead of just going right to an architect to go for a full design of a new municipal building, we can look into options. Do we have to do the whole thing? Can we just put an addition on? Can we renovate? What's the cost benefit of that relative to redoing the entire
Well, I think
place?
it's very
Building it.
prudent because I don't think there was enough discussion during the budget
No, there
season
wasn't.
on this. It was.
and I know there's a lot of people on this council that aren't even sure that a new municipal building is
Right.
needed. So we do need that research.
I think this is good.
So I agree.
Gives us a little more flexibility.
Councilman Phelan?
Well, I think we need to do something for our police department, my personal opinion.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, that's a shame what they're
That we
doing.
know, yeah.
Well, that's,
So whether you build a separate police department and don't do anything.
yeah, we don't want that
that's-
part in the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
That would be
No, I think everybody agrees.
Imagine that police
It's not
department.
It's all opportunities, ladies and gentlemen. It's all opportunities.
I guess if we're going to use this money to say, okay, this building can still remain the municipal building, maybe we should build a separate police department building or police building or whatever.
Or we did.
Or we just put a
I don't know how
5,000
you-
square
Well, I
foot
think that's a
addition on the
discussion
back.
for another day, once
I
you
don't
get
think-
somebody to
I don't
evaluate
think
things.
5,000 foot.
I agree.
But
You're good.
whatever. Anyway, again, I think, my personal opinion, that something needs to be done, but I think we need to keep in mind that this building is very unique and is part of the town, and I don't want to see it get destroyed in any way, shape, or form.
Well, that's why I really like the fresh eyes to steal Jim's his words on looking on this project, because it would be a huge undertaking, and you don't want to make any
No,
mistakes.
I agree. It's a lot of money, but I think it's money well spent. And again, I just want to emphasize that this building is this town, and I'd rather see us build a separate police department, because putting an addition on here is just going to wreck this thing.
Well, that's why we'll get somebody in to see.
Well, that's why we probably were hasty during the budget season, and now we're taking a second look with a new person. I think it's great. Okay. Is there a motion to introduce this ordinance on first reading?
I'll make a motion to introduce ordinance 2018-22.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mayor Winterfield?
Yes. Next on the agenda for introduction is ordinance 2018-23. Ms. Marsh.
Ordinance number 2018-23 is an ordinance amending Chapter 3 of the revised general ordinances of the Township of Pequannock and reestablishing an Economic Development Advisory Committee.
Mr. Brewer?
As previously discussed a few meetings ago, there are two existing codified groups that pertain to economic development in the Township of Pequannock. One is the Economic Development Commission, the other is the Economic Development Committee. Creates some confusion, leads to some issues with appointments. Based upon conversations, the best parts of each ordinance were combined, and now we have some cleaned up language based upon the comments from the council at the last discussion item, and it's scheduled for your potential introduction as previously directed.
Okay, great. Are there any comments from council?
Nope.
No?
No, I'd say the main, there wasn't, like you said, any main changes. It was more wording, but then it was taking a little bit from each of those existing.
Correct.
So-
I wasn't looking to dive into a new purpose, mission, or other dynamics
Right,
because it
so
exists.
just so everybody knows,
It's just
is
cleaned
clear
up.
on that, it's not like the mission changed. It was just more,
You good besides that?
I'm good.
Okay. My only other comments for the future is council should look at that. I just think there's too many members, and too many members, you can't get a lot done, as a proof as to where we are with economic development. So that's just my comment. Is there a motion to introduce this ordinance on first reading?
I'll make a motion to introduce ordinance 2018-23.
I'll second.
That's fine.
Roll call?
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mayor Winterfield?
Yes. The next agenda item is resolutions. Ms. Marsh.
For the council's consideration tonight, beginning with Resolution R 2018-184, authorizing tax office refunds, overpayments, or cancellations. 165, authorizing release of designated escrow deposits. R 2018-166, authorizing release of deposits for construction in a township right-of-way. 2018-167, authorizing the reinstatement of a special assessment installment payment plan. 168, authorizing awarding a contract to Civic Plus. I did mess it up, you're absolutely right. For the installation and maintenance of an upgraded
time.
website. Well, I messed it up in the R 2018-169, authorizing execution of a sanitary sewer connection agreement between the Township of Pequannock and Joseph Constantino and Patricia Constantino. 2018-170, approving change order numbers 4 and 5 for the Mountain Avenue Water Storage Tank and Transmission Main Contract 2 project, increasing the contract with PM Construction of Hillside, New Jersey by $65,627.62 to a revised contract price of $2,358,576.40.
Still got another page.
I do. Thank you for telling me. R 2018-171, authorizing change order number 1 for the 2018 TC06 Impel PUC pumper, increasing the contract with Pierce Manufacturing, Inc. by $2,257 to a revised contract price of $649,875.01. And R 2018-172, approving payment of the itemized claims as set forth on the September 7th, 2018 bill list.
Good job.
Thank you.
Are there any comments on the resolutions from council?
Yeah, I'd like to know about change order 1 for the 2018 TC06 Impel PCU pumper.
What's your question?
What is it?
There was some, it's a fire truck, it's a pumper fire truck, and there was some variation in the equipment that was identified. Upon review of the change order, there were some adds, there were some deductions, but ultimately the contract price needs to be adjusted in the amount.
So this goes back to the truck that we approved last year.
Correct.
For the $650,000, so they just got it under $650,000.
That's what I wanted to know. Perfect.
Okay.
I guess I just had one thing I was going to say. I know there was a lot of paper there for the contract on the website agreement. Obviously, you've worked with this group before.
I've never been in a place where it was implemented with them, but I have worked in places where they were the website host.
I just want to make, it's hard to make sure everything's in there. And I just, want to make sure that,
Our legal department has looked at it.
Yeah, I think it's
They're
great.
the best in the business.
Yeah.
I
No, I think it's great. I think the website, we definitely need to invest in that. I just hope we
And I will
thought of
say,
everything.
well, I will say that our township manager did bargain it down. He's a good negotiator.
Okay.
Yeah, there was an initial price that was higher than that, which is currently in place. The total amount of the contract for the benefit of discussion is $28,000. It's a 3-year contract. $16,000 is the build. It's $4,000 annually for the maintenance and administration of the website. We are currently paying $4,250 annually, so it's actually a reduction in annual cost. Although $16,000 is a fair amount of money, based upon the custom design, it's the obligation of the service provider to take all of our stuff, all of our functions, all of our features, simplify it and make it work.
And what
So
was
rather
the
than
going
having
rate? What was the going rate then? Yeah.
mid-20s.
Right, so he negotiated
Right,
down.
we're redoing our website, and the cost is probably about $35,000. So this is a...
Yeah, well, I'm glad we're doing it.
I can't wait to see it done,
Me
because
too.
our website's horrible.
There you go.
Yes. So thank you for doing that, but I just wanted to bring that up.
And sorry to bury you with paper, but that's the whole procurement process for the benefit of support of the resolution, because the
No.
quotes are necessary.
No, that's great. Is there a motion to adopt these resolutions?
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 2018-164 through 172.
Is there a second?
Second it.
Roll call?
First off, I just want to make it clear that this is actually the award of the contract. Despite the wording on the agenda, this is actually awarding the contract for
I
the...
know
For
that.
Civic Plus?
Yep, Civic Plus.
We're good, we know that.
Okay.
We're anxious.
That was for the benefit of the
Benefit of
public.
records.
Yeah.
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yep.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mayor Winterfield?
Yes. Next item, agenda items for discussion. First one is the personnel manual. I hope everybody had fun reading that.
It's a nice manual.
Yeah.
Similar to the manager's report for this meeting, the document is brief and succinct. The obligation of municipalities today, a lot of times, is to establish policies and procedures in an effort to protect the municipality from exposure, give guidance to supervisors, and transparently provide what the expectations are. Working with a team of staff as well as professionals, including Mr. Oostdike and Labor Council, the 117-page document has been placed before you. It's a discussion item this evening, and I'm not asking for any specific action. However, my recommendation and respectful request is that we approve a document like this or this on the 25th. Some things that I would just like to highlight as some changes from the existing manual to the proposed manual. The township's approach to the drug and alcohol policy is going to be modified somewhat. We're going to move away from random testing of non-safety sensitive personnel to random testing of only safety sensitive personnel consistent with applicable law and Attorney General guideline. The responsibility of supervisors to ensure the safe work environment and people aren't under the influence does not change, but it becomes testing with suspicion, which I think, for the purposes of the policy, is identified based upon an individual being impaired in some way. There needs to be some tangible element. So we're just working to minimize exposure and simplify things a little bit. So that's one thing to point out. The existing manual includes an executive leave policy based upon review of Labor Council. Fair Labor Standards Act has some conflicts with that, so although the policy may not be 100% compliant, the intention can be complied with. We just can't have a policy like that moving forward. Transitional duty policy. There is in municipal government, people get hurt, and it's a terrible thing, but unfortunately, it's a dangerous business for a lot of people out there. So when people do get hurt, there will be now a requirement that if you're able to perform a task for the township, you have to come in and work to perform that task, even if it's not your job function. An example from my past would be an individual in Public Works who was a very highly skilled mason, became one of the best filers for the Department of Administration ever, because during the period of working when he was injured, he still contributed to the municipal effort. It's good for morale, it's good for the recovery speed of the affected parties. There is one question I do have for the council, because there's an unwritten practice that exists right now whereby an employee, when he or she separates from the municipality, is entitled to up to 2 weeks of his or her pay. It's not articulated in writing, it is an established practice, and the way the manual is presently drafted, I wrote it, and it essentially eliminates that payout. So upon termination, upon separation, it eliminates that. The question, or the reason I want to discuss it with the council, is essentially when we shifted from vacation to PTO time, it changed our approach. And typically people carry, because in the Township of Pequannock, for the benefit of the audience, we don't have sick, vacation, and personal. We have paid time off. And when people would leave, if they had a bank of vacation time that they had eligible, they would be paid for that. So the intention of the practice of paying people for 2 weeks, I think, was to satisfy, what someone might have in the bank, and to make sure that they're rewarded for not necessarily taking all of their time and potentially abusing the system. The alternative is, if you have 2 weeks of paid time off and you're looking to leave the services of the township in good standing, there's nothing to preclude you from walking out the door on the 15th, but concluding your employment officially on the 31st. So there are a couple of different ways to skin the cat. I thought it was somewhat simple to approach it the second way, but I also don't want to disenfranchise anybody. I don't want to turn anybody away. I don't want to create a situation where people, again, are penalized for not taking advantage of every hour that they might have to take off.
So we're not taking anything from them, technically.
Correct.
If I want to retire June 1st and I have 2 weeks of vacation, my last day is in May.
Yep.
And I get paid for sitting home or going to the beach or whatever. So we're not taking anything from them.
Correct. And arguably retain on an active roster for healthcare benefits, and your pension contribution continues. So there's an arguable benefit to that, but...
So if they know of the change, they can just build
plan
that,
that, and you said the other way was an unwritten rule anyway. It was just...
It wasn't articulated anywhere in writing. It had been done for multiple people. It was done with the authorization of council, so there was nothing unlawful about it. Right. It just became a practice rather than a policy.
Right, okay.
So Adam, let me ask a question. After this is done, does every employee get a new handbook?
Every employee, as well as every volunteer on boards, committees, commissions,
and every 2 years you do this.
Because I'm on the planning board, I got my...
You'll only get one.
Every 2 years we update it?
There's a recommended revision every 2 years. Currently, we have a beautiful glossy bound version.
Yes, right.
The approach will be to do a 3-ring binder, so that way it can be easily switched in and switched out without having significant printing costs.
You can't just do an online version, or you have to have a printed
You have to have a signature and certified.
I was just going to say, somebody's got to sign for that.
Yeah,
So they can't sign a document without having the whole thing printed?
There are the police department and there are services out there that allow you to do that, and that would be something to explore.
Yeah.
But initially...
How many trees do we want to kill?
And double-sided it would be.
We just planted 400, so...
And more survived, didn't
But in my approach in doing this, to answer Councilman Phelan's question, yes, there would be meetings with all staff. There would be multiple meetings that were mandatory, so we didn't incur overtime with the police department.
Right.
Having done this in prior municipalities, I also establish blocks of office hours, and normally there's a chain of command, and as the chief executive, you have to go through the chain of command before you can appear in my office. But with something like this, I do an open door policy, so anybody who has any questions at any level of the organization has the right to stop by and say, what does this mean? What is this? I don't understand that.
But we're really not changing a lot other than what well, our drug testing policy and our,
we're updating it.
We're expanding.
Right.
We're included, there are a lot of things, for example, the domestic violence leave policy, the Family Medical Leave Act. There's a lot of things that exist and that the township may follow, but aren't necessarily articulated in writing.
We're actually giving the employees more protection because we're stating things, so it's more clarity.
Yeah.
So it's gonna
And there's
benefit both
uniformity.
parties.
Yeah.
or there's uniformity, right?
Yeah.
Right.
When all else fails, go to the manual.
Exactly. I thought you did an outstanding job.
Yeah,
And it was a team effort, but thank you very much.
Yeah, and I know
Our
your staff was
professionals
involved too, yeah. It was outstanding.
It's not an easy undertaking.
So we can review it again, vote on it next.
Yeah, he just needed to go for, I'm happy with that
Yeah,
as it
I'm
is.
happy with it.
I'm happy with it.
Doesn't this have to be approved by a certain date?
That's why I respectfully requested that it be approved on the 25th. So if there's any additional feedback or questions in your
Yeah.
reviewing it, I can identify what may or may not have changed between now and the 25th.
Yeah, try to do it this week if you have
I'll
anything
schedule
else to
a
say.
resolution. It's simply, a policy is a resolution, and that way it's a little bit more dynamic and can be
Right.
changed.
So nobody has any issues with it? Can you do the resolution now?
No, I'd like to wait till the 25th.
No, we don't wait till the 25th.
I mean,
No.
vote, not to.
To vote.
All right, yeah, you have anything to say, you need to say it
No,
this
no,
week, because
no,
he's
I
got to
didn't
put
mean
this to
that.
press.
I meant to vote
Yeah.
on it.
Correct.
Yeah, no, you have to, definitely. Okay, all right. So you
Thank you.
We're
good?
not going to be able to make any changes before, on the 25th.
Right,
So
exactly.
everybody
No,
understands that.
Adam
If you-
just said if you have.
Yeah, but do you have any
Yeah,
questions? We should
if-
talk about it now.
If there are issues, obviously I can change the document.
Yeah.
If
25th of this
Yeah, but then we have to discuss it all over again, and you will be delayed.
Well, I'll have to identify the change, and again, if there's an issue that I don't necessarily think is the best interest, then there's no direction from council at that.
Okay.
It's in my-
No, we got it. That's
Okay,
fine.
all right. You're not off the hook yet. We got village area sewer assessment.
Okay, thank you. So the village area sewer assessment was most recently discussed on June 26th, where Mr. Holberg, who was happily still in employment, and I reviewed with the council the fact that the revenues for the sewer utility were contingent upon the confirmation of the village area sewer project in 2018. So that created the timeline from which we had to operate. Presently, public notice has been sent out via letter as required by law to the included property owners. It's also been published in the newspaper, or will be published shortly in the newspaper, regarding the hearing for the appraiser. So the township previously authorized Ted Lamisella of Appraisal Systems to complete the appraisals that are necessary by law, and that hearing will be on the 24th of September at 7 p.m. in this building, in this room. So again, included property owners are receiving a letter explaining that. They're also, it is also published as required. So they have the ability to come in and speak with Mr. Lamisella about their appraisal, what the impact on their individual property is, they can challenge it, etc. Following that meeting, Mr. Lamisella has the opportunity to make any changes, and ultimately a presentation has to be made to the Township Council, who will function as the assessment board and ultimately have a hearing and confirm the assessment either at that meeting or shortly thereafter. Based upon the timeframes for the anticipated revenues, I identified for the benefit of our project flow chart, the October meeting. The first October meeting, I know the council has in the past had special meetings specifically on the subject, so as not to bog down an agenda. I would recommend that special meeting, if you so desire to have one, either be the week of the 8th or the week of the 15th, because upon confirmation, the bills go out, property owners have 60 days to make their first payment, so it puts us into the end of December.
Is everyone planning on being here then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, for what
I think
date?
we should have
October
it.
8th?
Done it. We've done it on the other projects, I think we definitely
Yeah, we do
need
it
to that.
separate from a
Yeah,
regular.
we usually do, because there's usually quite a bit of activity.
This is October?
Correct.
October
Either
8th or 15th.
the week of the 8th, excuse me, or the week of the 15th.
All right, just make sure
We can't do it the 8th,
Okay.
Columbus Day.
Well, you can do it on Columbus Day. Are you
Well, it's
closed?
also the indigenous.
I know, but
Indigenous Peoples' Day.
You know what I meant.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
does it have to be a super majority or anything like that, or no?
No.
No, okay, all right, okay.
What was it?
All right, next on the agenda is reports and notice. Are you done?
Are we going to pick a date?
Do we have a date?
I thought we said the 8th, no?
No, it can't be on the 8th.
Oh, all right.
Because that's Columbus Day,
Why can't it be?
and I'm away. I come back on Columbus Day.
I don't care, Adam, just
Yeah, I don't care.
tell me
Tell
what
us
date
when.
and I'll work my schedule around it.
I can't be on the 16th because it's my birthday.
I'm not here on the...
I'm not coming here on my birthday.
You're not here on the 9th?
How's the 10th?
The 9th is a regular meeting.
9th is a regular meeting.
10th is an environmental commission meeting where I believe I'm committed to attend, so how about the
Could it
11th?
be the 15th, if you want to do it on a Monday?
Sure.
That is a planning board meeting.
That's a planning board.
It is a planning board meeting.
Let's stay with the 8th.
Yeah, can't we do
Columbus Day, a lot of
that? Will you
people
be
are
back in time?
Well, I'll be here, but
I work that day.
I'm more worried about other people that might be away that weekend.
We're not going away.
Who's going to be away on Columbus Day? It's not like a...
Melissa will be.
She
I'll
said
be
she'll be
back.
back.
I can definitely do it.
But that's not really, I mean, it's not
Is that a
big
township holiday? Is that one of your holidays?
I'm in.
I don't know, I don't care.
I'm in-
I don't know. I don't even know.
Look
at the
All
manual.
right, let's back up.
I
doubt it.
No, I'll be glad to do that. I'll be back.
Yeah, true, banks are closed Columbus
Is it, banks are closed on Columbus Day?
Right.
We don't need the bank.
Do we need a bank?
No, well, no, but I don't know what counts as a holiday in this case.
Look in the manual. We got the manual. Look it up.
For the employee's perspective, I can check the manual. I don't know, lawfully, Carol, are you concerned about the holding of public meetings on holiday?
Yeah.
Bob?
Bob?
Is that a holiday?
That's not a
It is.
federal holiday.
Yeah, Columbus Day is a federal holiday. Not one most of us celebrate, but it is.
I don't get off.
So are we prohibited from having a meeting on that day?
I don't, no, I don't think so.
Oh, that's a good
I don't
question.
think so. I think we can have meetings on federal holidays. Is it an employee holiday?
No.
Checking the manual.
I'm looking, and no, page 49 is...
Gotta be around here somewhere.
No, it's not a holiday.
What's on the 10th?
What's on the 10th?
They'll be working. Environmental, we're already
10th is
committed.
environmental commission, I'm committed to attend.
He's committed to attend. The 8th is the best day.
And it can't
I
be
think
the
we
week
should have it on
before.
Columbus Day.
Yeah.
I'm coming back from Boston that day, but I'll be here for night.
There's a parade?
Yeah, do you?
Yes, I think we wanted to drive back from Boston on Sunday, huh?
It's a work day.
It's a work
I mean,
day.
I don't have a problem being here. I just was more worried about other people maybe saying.
So was I.
Some
I'll be.
residents, you mean, who might otherwise want to attend and...
Yeah, but if you think they're all going to be here, then
They'll be here.
They'll be here.
They'll be here.
So, the 8th at 7 o'clock?
Yep.
sure.
October 8th at 7 PM it is.
Okay.
Pizza too?
Sure.
You want-
No. I just don't know, I wouldn't want to implement any projections.
Ryan, I will
that
take
could
you
be
for
tossed.
pizza before the meeting. How's that?
Pizza before the
I'll
meeting.
feed you pizza before the meeting.
Might need some Starbucks too.
Okay.
All right, moving along.
All right.
Thank you very much.
October 8th.
Next on the agenda is reports and notices. Are there any comments or questions? I don't think we had anything. Next item is council reports and announcements. Councilwoman Florence Lynch.
I really don't have anything to report. I thought what Jim presented before from the chamber was great. I know that Economic Development has been working on a survey, which I did distribute to everyone, which was a different perspective, not from the business owners, but from the landlords or the property owners. So hopefully we'll get that all summarized and have that presentation in the near future. As far as upcoming meetings, the next Economic Development meeting will be on the 4th Wednesday, so that is slated for the 26th. Other than that, my other committees didn't meet this past month. The Library Board will be meeting on the 12th. Tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow. Other than that, that's all I have.
Okay, Councilman Hurd.
Joe pretty much said everything earlier in his report. The trees that we planted are doing very well, and they actually need to be pruned, so we were talking about that. My Municipal Alliance Committee is tomorrow at 4 o'clock over at the high school, and flood is this Thursday, 7 p.m. in this room. That's all I have.
Councilman Hurd, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to attend that.
Flood or municipal?
No, the municipal, and if you could bring up about the surveys and if they're ever going to do anything with those.
Okay.
Because there was discussion about that last time, and I don't think they had enough people that they wanted to move forward with that, but I think it's a great document that should be available to all the residents.
So what are you
Hopefully
thinking?
I'll get
Are you
there.
thinking of releasing it or
They had
putting
talked
it?
about putting it on their website. for people to view. But if you can maybe, you were there, Dave, right? When we had that discussion about the survey. Remember about the student survey? Remember we had a lot of discussion about the stuff that was in there?
There was a lot of great content. The question is, can we get it out?
Yeah, the coalition, yeah. Yeah, and I want to be there, but I'm not sure I'm going to be able to leave school tomorrow and get there, because they always have it, during the day.
Yeah, who from council is going to that? Ryan's going to be there.
I will be there.
Tomorrow, right?
Yeah, Ryan says he's going, so that's good. So that was my only comment. If you could bring that up and just have some discussion about that.
Yes.
When Ryan's done, before you move on to other council reports, can I?
Yeah, you can go back. Go ahead.
Go back. I gave you the wrong date before. On the library board, they meet the third Wednesday of the month, so the library board is not meeting tomorrow on the 12th. They are meeting on the 19th. I just read it wrong.
Yeah, because tomorrow's the chamber thing that's there.
And tomorrow is the chamber thing. And then the only other thing I wanted to ask Adam, are you still slated to come to the Economic Development Committee?
Yes. Last week in
September, which would be the fourth Wednesday. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councilman Hurd, are you done?
I am.
Okay. Councilman Cole?
Last night, Parks and Rec Advisory Board met. We talked about budget items for next year, what Parks and Rec wanted to make recommendations for. There is a new park ranger, Jacob Mangieri. Mangieri is the new park ranger. He took over for Kayla, who left, Taylor, who left for
Tyler and Taylor.
College.
I never know which one was which.
Yeah. Hoedown is this Saturday from 11 to 5. They say it's supposed to be nice weather, so looking forward to that. And also last night, after the Parks and Rec meeting, First Aid Squad met. 58 calls during August. They are confirmed that the Chief Spring fundraiser will be November 3rd at 6 p.m. at Holy Spirit, and tickets are $35 per person, and that's going to be the First Aid Squad in both fire departments putting that on. Tables of 18 are encouraged. They expect 500 people there.
Wow.
There's supposed to be a comedian there, Dave?
There's two comedians,
Two comedians.
It's a pasta night.
I guess they have the corn over there, so they can handle that.
Councilman. Sorry.
You got something over there, Councilman Hurd?
Yeah. What day was it again? The 3rd?
November 3rd.
Over at Holy Spirit?
Holy Spirit.
What time?
6 o'clock.
Thank you.
But you have to buy tickets in advance, or they sell tickets at the door?
They discourage that, just because if they say that, if there's no tickets left.
They'll sell out before that.
Yeah, they'll sell out, so.
Yeah. Okay,
So
great.
it's a pasta night, comedian night fundraiser.
Okay, great.
Where can we get the tickets?
I don't even think they're available yet.
Hopefully they let it where you can buy it online, it'll be a lot better.
Fire.
Yeah, maybe they'll do something online, it'll be a lot easier. Yeah. Okay. All right. The only thing I have is the pathways for the train station in Martinberry. Oh, did I skip you? Oh, I'm sorry.
You go first.
No, you go first.
Okay, the only thing I have is, Company 2's new fire truck is in New Jersey. It's actually in Wildwood this weekend.
For the convention, right?
For the convention. It's a showpiece truck down there from Fire and Safety. After the Firemen's Convention, it's going to go to Fire and Safety. It's going to have some work done to it. So it should be in our town at the end of September, the 3rd or 4th week of September. It's a beautiful truck. I've seen it. We should all be proud of ourselves for making sure that they got the right truck. The company number 1 is having a beefsteak fundraiser on October 27th in Butler. It's $50 a ticket.
Is it a combination with somebody else?
No, it's less expensive for them to do it in Butler.
No kidding.
No. Why? I'm not kidding.
Why?
That's so
Don't ask
strange.
me. I didn't arrange this. This is something different than what they've done before, and I'll explain to you guys privately later what the difference is. So, and that's all I have because
So
Dave.
anyone's invited to the beefsteak?
Anybody is invited.
What time?
Maybe they think they'll make more money.
we'll talk about it.
Okay, all right.
Dave, I think it starts at 6. I'm sure it starts at 6, but I'll double check for you. And again, Dave, thanks for mentioning the Chief Spring thing. I just heard that on Friday from company number 1, that company 1, company 2, and the First Aid Squad are doing a joint venture.
It's nice to see them do it together.
Last meeting.
That's really nice.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, I stepped on you there. I forgot about you.
That's all right.
No, I just want to talk about the Pathways Tour.
I promise I'll never forget about you.
Yeah, because they have these nice flyers for the county. I left a few of them around, and what's nice is Pequannock is the only one that has 2 properties in here, so that's pretty cool. There's a little error in there. It says though the Martin Berry House says Township of Pequannock, and that really is the Historic Society who's putting that on, but that's fine. And then the Historic Commission is doing the train station. So there'll be different groups at each location.
I don't think people are going to read it that carefully.
So that's the 22nd.
Well, the commission noticed it.
Interested parties always notice.
You're right, of course.
Yeah, I think, like I said, it's both days, and I guess what you can do is, even if you can't go to all of them, just go visit.
Well, Cedar Crest, Ed Engelbar, our historian, actually arranged with Cedar Crest, I think for $25 ticket, they're going to take them to 4 of the properties.
Oh, wow.
So they're going to take a group from Cedar Crest around.
See, Ed got right in there.
Oh, yeah, Ed's on several boards up there. He is really actively...
So it's not this weekend, it's the following week.
Right. Okay. Next on the agenda is public comment. If anyone wishes to address the council, please wait to be recognized, come to the microphone, and provide your name and address for the record. Frank.
Hey, I recognize you.
There's less and less people. Every time I look up, there's less people. Okay.
That's all that matters.
Frank Spazeri, 45 West Franklin Avenue, from Pequannock, part of Pequannock Township. That's for...
You still...
Anyway, a couple of items I have. Did you ask Bob about the liaison?
Yes,
I did. You got an answer on that?
We have to clarify. What do we have to clarify, Bob?
We have to check.
Whether your position really is a liaison position, or whether you are a voting member in accordance with our ordinance. Well,
yeah. Is he allowed to vote?
If he's a liaison, no. If he's an actual member, yes.
You got to look at the ordinance.
That's what Carol reminded me we have to check into.
So different boards.
Yes.
The liaison is actually a member relative to a liason.
I was under the impression that open space was a regular member.
Okay, I just didn't know whether you had talked to Bob about
We'll double check.
All right, great.
Yeah.
The other thing that you're having on October 8th, is that open to the public?
Yes.
All our meetings are open to the...
And are you going to tape it?
Are you around?
Yeah, thank you.
I'm only asking because if you need somebody to run the camera, I'll be here. Otherwise, I won't be here.
We don't usually do that.
Whatever our usual practice.
We don't usually.
Put it this way, if there was a resident that couldn't be here, is it beneficial to do it?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
No, I don't.
That was...
Melissa, you remember the other meetings, right?
Well,
I do.
in the event that you change your mind, just let Carol know. She can call me.
I would stay with past
We're
practice.
giving you the night off, Frank.
You can have the
The other thing is,
It is boring.
in the manual, you said that everybody's got to go through a chain of command even to get to...
No, I was explaining that
don't
people
have
will have an opportunity to ask questions about policy without utilizing the chain of command because it's a new document. Normally, there is a chain of command process, but if somebody has a question about a policy, they can come directly to me.
Yeah, I mean, you just wouldn't stop me from knocking on the door and saying, hello, good morning.
You're always welcome.
Okay.
It's only if
He
you
just
work
wants to
for
make
it.
sure he still has access.
The other thing was, you're spending the money to do a study on whether you're going to, revamp this building or whatever. And my suggestion is to keep in mind that we need a conference room that will hold more than 8 people, if that's going to be part of your plan, because that little conference room where the kitchen is in there just doesn't do it, you know what I mean, when you get 10 or 12 people. So keep that in mind. We need a conference room similar to like the one that was in Lincoln Park. I don't know whether you guys ever been to one in Lincoln Park. It's huge. I mean, you can fit like 30 people around that table. We don't really want that big, but...
I don't think we want to spend what they spend. Yeah.
Just a thought. The other thing was, and I'm sorry Joe left, but something you might consider. On all of our traffic lights, we have cameras. on most of them.
They're not cameras.
They're not operational.
Infrared, they're watching things.
Oh, I thought they were the cameras that you were going to use to...
It's referred to as the Octagon system. It allows emergency response vehicles
Yes.
when they approach the intersection
Okay.
to cause the light to go green.
And cancel that. I was going to say, if that was a camera, you could turn it on and, get that one used anyway to catch the people on Alexander Avenue tossing the crap out
I
the
thought
window.
you and Joe were volunteering to go stand there.
I'll take the video camera.
I got some camouflage outfit for you, Frank.
That's all I have. Thank you very much for your time.
Frank, wait a minute.
Wait, Frank.
Come back.
We want to know your address.
Because Mr. Serrato pointed out that 90% of people get their information from their cell phone, and I apparently fall into the 90%. The township council member is a member of the Open Space Committee.
So he can vote.
So he can vote.
Yeah.
He's part of the
That's
quorum.
great.
All right, there you go.
I mean, we let them vote anyway. I mean, the 10 years that I was in...
Oh, you did it right then.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, so, there you go.
Okay, Sharon?
Remember, Sharon, he stole your line.
Yeah.
You stole some of my questions now.
We have to come up with something different now.
That's all right.
I'll be quick. I'll be about like 45 minutes to an hour. So you
I'm
guys
getting
can
over
stay. I'm an
the-
all-nighter, so.
Beyond hunger at this point.
Bathroom break.
Good evening, Sharon Taylor, 19 Libby Avenue, Pompton Plains section of Paquonic Township. Regarding ordinance 2018-22, Adam, can you just, where does the $103,000 come out of again? Is that out of the $350,000 budget?
Yes. There's
And that's-
$350,000 that's currently
Right.
authorized. So the
Okay,
103 is a carve-out of that 350.
Okay, and then because that's for the HVA system.
Correct.
But where does that fall under does that fall under capital improvement funds?
It's a capital improvement, yes.
So there is $650,000 in the budget for that. We used all that money?
650.
No, not
For what?
Fire truck.
That's the fire truck.
Oh, that's for the fire truck?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The total capital program for the municipalities in the millions, but the authorization that's specific to an architect for this building was $350,000.
It was
Right.
one line item
So
that
it's
we're reappropriating.
It's one
Right.
component of.
Okay. No, because I remember at the budget meeting, we were talking about the $350,000. It's in here, but I didn't know, so the $103,000 is additional falling into another capital expense?
No, it's not additional. It's being taken
Yeah,
from that
we're
bucket.
taking the
gonna be
pot of
taken from
350,
that?
and 103 of that's going towards the HVAC, leaving the balance for someone to come in and do an analysis, as well as an architect if the decision is moved forward to building a building.
Okay, and then, but we're not getting back that $103,000 into that 350, like we lost it? That's what,
We could always add,
where you added in?
That would be another year, another budget.
Next year
you
then?
could, well, and technically you can do a capital ordinance at any time, but you would need the cash to do it fully funded, so most likely it would be in a succeeding year.
Okay. And then regarding that, for the architectural plans or the analysis, are your plans, like, are you going to open that up to the public when they're going through?
Not doing that, architect. That's to not do the architect.
But the analysis part?
It's to get a different consultant to look at this building and see what needs to be done and not.
Can we
yeah.
expand this building or can we
Right.
not expand?
Right.
Or maybe
But is that
pieces
going to
of
be
it.
open to the public, what your findings are, the analysis?
Yes, absolutely.
That will be?
Absolutely.
Is that going to be like a separate meeting, or is that going to be just under one of the council meetings?
I would report back to the council on the findings of the report, and it would be a discussion item.
Okay, and then do you have I'm sorry.
I think we all would feel more comfortable spending, if they do say that we need a new municipal building, I think we would all feel more comfortable having a professional besides the six of us
Right.
saying that we need a new municipal building.
Right, I agree. Just like because during the budget meeting, we were talking about that briefly. You weren't here yet, but some of us were saying that if this is something that's going to come into fruition, is the public going to be involved with it, because it's a lot of money, and there's a lot of,
Well, here's the thing.
you're going to have a lot of
Sharon.
debates about it.
Yeah, all our meetings are public. People need to read the agendas and stay abreast of situations and come. We don't personally invite everybody for topics that we think are hot topics. All our topics are hot. They're all tax dollars. So it's not like you have to have a special meeting. It will be there, but people have to read it and stay informed.
Well, I do believe that the social media, I think that they're putting up our agendas pretty consistently.
Yeah.
I think they missed
So
this
it's out
week.
there.
They missed this
And
week, I think.
I don't know if we do decide for a new town hall, it will be the decision of the five of us. I don't think we plan on putting it on a ballot.
It's not on ballot, it's our
No,
decision. We would
yeah.
fund it, we would be the ones funding it.
Right.
Well,
we gotta
you know what, you
figure
have
out
the,
what
you have the
numbers
whole
are, so.
10-year plan coming up with the town. It's all going to get worked in together.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
But it would all be publicly noticed, discussed in public. There wouldn't be any backroom component to it.
Because for 2019, you have the new municipal building estimated budget in there, like an estimated number.
Just a placeholder.
That's just like a placeholder.
Yeah, there's a plan, but
Okay.
there's not
But there's
not an
no definite-
authorization that corresponds with any of 2019. Each year it's revisited, but the goal, and we're required by law to have a 6-year plan at minimum. We have a greater plan than that.
Mm-hmm.
The idea is, fire trucks don't turn 25 years old by accident, so we plan ahead. So there's no actual authorization in 19 at this time. That would all be revisited.
Okay, and the consultants, like based on, township regulation, do we have to bid out for a consultant? Do you have like,
Depends on the monetary threshold.
Okay.
I candidly don't know exactly how much it would cost to do this. I have an idea in my mind, but there may need to be a competitive procurement process. There may not. It depends. And there's also, I don't know how many people doing that kind of work, so that's a component of it as well.
okay,
Best person at the best price will be my goal.
okay, great. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thanks, Sharon.
Good night.
Anyone else? Okay, there's no minutes for approval tonight, so is there a closed session?
No, ma'am.
Okay, great. So, there being no further business,
I'll
is there
make
a
a
motion to
motion to
adjourn?
adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
It's like 3-1.